Good evening, American patriots, and welcome to another edition of the Douglas Ducote Show. You had many places you could be tonight, but chose to be here with me, and for that, I am forever grateful. Do you like the new introduction to the show? I particularly love it. I'm very impressed with how it came out. Of course, I'm biased, but it is what it is. Look, we're going to do something a little different tonight after the show that I want y'all to be aware of. I was going to start off tonight's show sharing with you some very, very important information that not just every American, but everyone that took the jab needs to be aware of. All right. And I was going to start the show off with that information. And then I thought, you know what? That's not going to work because YouTube will censor this show. And so I'm just going to read to you what I was going to originally say before I started this article, which was to the YouTube medical misinformation monitors, or whatever you call yourselves. The following current news story is backed up and supported by the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, also known as the CDC, a component of the United States Department of Health and Human Services, and is being reported, owned by Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, ABC, NBC, CBS, the BBC, the New York Times, the Washington Post, and most every mainstream media organization on planet Earth. And I thought, you know what? It's not going to matter because I've done this in the past when I've told you information about the vaccine, and they gave me a strike against my channel. In fact, I've gotten 2 strikes against my channel for just that. They labeled it as medical misinformation, even though it's being reported by all the mainstream news media, and it is being approved and supported by the CDC. But YouTube knows better. Okay. So here's what we're going to do. Immediately after tonight's show, give me about 5 minutes to make the switch over. And I'm going to go back live again, except it's going to be strictly on my Rumble account. Go to the Douglas Ducote Show on Rumble, not Douglas M. Ducote Sr. account on Rumble. I don't post anything up there anymore. But the Douglas Ducote Show on Rumble. And I'm going to share this with you. If you haven't already heard it yet, or you haven't already seen it yet, it's pretty damn scary. And everybody on planet Earth needs to be aware of what's finally coming out. All of us that were labeled kooks and conspiracy theorists for not wanting to get the jab. And, the facts slowly but surely come out, and I will share that with you on the Rumble account after tonight's show here. All right, so let's get into tonight's show. The past week, as you all know, Judge Arthur, and I don't even know how to pronounce his last name, Engoron, Engoron. He's the New York State Supreme Court judge that just fined Donald Trump $370 million, including interest, for purported fraud under New York statute. The term fraud is used loosely since no one was defrauded. An element or cause of action under common law fraud, and no one was harmed. Also an element that there was no proof of reliant. Another element. This is fraud in the air, as the saying goes, no harm by no one against no one, for no loss by anyone. No one testified that they lost a penny or said they were frauded, or that they would have wanted to deal with Trump, not wanting to deal with Trump as a customer, because they all agreed that they like dealing with Trump as a customer, the banks that lent him the money. So what should we call him, since I can't pronounce his last name? Let's call him Igor. It's actually spelled Engoron is his last name. No one came forward to complain except Attorney General Letitia James. But more about this modern day tarantula, as I like to call her, later in this column. Previously, the same judge ordered dissolution of Trump's businesses in the state under the supervision of a receiver. That order was stayed by the appellate court pending appeal. Following the order of dissolution, the Associated Press reviewed nearly 150 reported cases under the statute used to punish Trump and stated that nearly every previous time a company was taken away, victims and losses were the key factors. Customers had lost money or bought defective products or never received services that were ordered, leaving them cheated and angry. Angry, although not a word to describe a single customer that testified at Trump's trial. But there's also a word, along with outrage, that applies to a range of commentators not aligned with former Trump. Professor Jonathan Turley called the $370 million judgment confiscatory, extreme, and abusive. Professor Stephen Clasbury termed it a travesty and an unjust political act. The subhead of this outline commentary employed the term sensationalist. Both law professors are right because the judgment does not relate to any loss. The $370 million is not, or properly understood, violation or prohibition against grossly excessive punitive damages. It does fall, however, directly within the excessive fines clause of the 8th Amendment to the United States Constitution. In an opinion especially illuminating to understand the wrongdoing by the Attorney General and Judge Igor, the U.S. Supreme Court held in Timms versus Indiana 2019 that the excessive fines clause is an incorporated protection appliance to the state, all of them, even New York, under the 14th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. The Supreme Court states that the clause traces a vulnerable linkage back to at least 2015 in the Magna Carta. Despite that, implosions of excessive fines persist. The 17th century struck kings, in particular, were criticized for using large fines to raise revenue, harass their political foes, and detain those that were unable to pay. These remain concerns in America. So let's just shoot straight to the facts here. Before the judge heard a single witness or from Trump himself, he only heard from Letitia James, the DA that did the prosecution. And she said X, Y, and Z. That went in front of a pool of jurors, and they indicted the man. Now, you can indict a ham sandwich. It's the easiest thing in the world to do. It means absolutely jack shit, okay? Happens all the time to innocent people as well as guilty people. But she came up with her evidence. Now, as you know, the way our justice system is supposed to work in America, you're innocent until proven guilty in a court of law, right? You tracking with me here? Now, this judge decided himself, without hearing from Trump, without hearing from Trump's attorneys, without hearing a single witness, just what the prosecution said, decided before the trial, his own words, Trump is guilty. And then held the trial. Well, why'd you even hold the trial? If that's the conclusion you come to, which, oh, by the way, he's not allowed to do. which is why this is going to be blown the fuck out of the water at the Supreme Court level if it goes that high. Okay, what this judge did should bar him from ever. He should lose his law license. He should be kicked off the bench. He should lose his retirement. Nothing should come to this man in any way favorable. What he did was absolutely 100% against the laws of the United States of America and our Constitution. So he holds the trial anyhow. And Latina James gets up and gives her spiel. And then Trump's side gets to give their spiel and bring the witnesses in of all the people that Latina James says were defrauded, which were these banks that lent Trump this money. And not a single one of them, zero, said they were defrauded. In fact, they said they would do business with Donald Trump and his association again if given the opportunity, because he paid back all of the money on time with interest, and no one was defrauded. No one was short-cheated any money. There were no victims. This whole thing was just a political fucking nightmare to go after this man because they hate him. And that's not how our justice system is supposed to work. So we already knew before Trump raised his hand or anybody to say they swore in the Bible that they're going to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. The judge said he is guilty. And then it was allowed to go forward. And they had to try him. And all the witnesses came forward and said, Latina James is a lying bitch. Nothing she said is true. And it was proven to the judge that Trump was innocent. But it didn't matter. The judge still ruled against Trump. Again, it's going to get appealed. It's going to get thrown out. Trump's not going to be, there's no freaking way possible Trump will have to pay this money. All right. And this judge, he has fucked up beyond belief. How this crooked son of a bitch is a judge in the United States of America, I don't understand. He would fit perfect in places like Cuba, Russia, Iran, North Korea comes to mind, Venezuela. All those places that are run by dictators that go after their political opponents. That's where this judge would fit perfectly in, because that's how he held this trial. He went after Joe Biden's political opponent. Period. End of story. Stick a fork in it. That lowlife son of a bitch needs to be barred from ever practicing law and he's lost all credibility, period, across the board. End the discussion. Let's move on to the next story. I've said it a million times, and I will continue to say it. Strict gun control laws do not stop bad people, aka criminals, from mass shootings or killing anyone for that matter. They only stop good people from protecting themselves and their families from bad people. I'm trying to dumb this down for liberals and Democrats that may watch this show at some point in their life, so maybe I should talk slower. Why? Because the law's intentions are to stop bad guys from owning guns and killing people. Yet the bad guys don't care about your gun laws, which is what makes them bad guys and criminals. Good guys obey the law. Therefore, abide by the gun laws. Case in point, the shooter who killed 2 police officers and a firefighter and a paramedic in Minneapolis suburbs during a domestic dispute call this past Sunday has been identified as a man, drumroll please, who was already barred from owning a firearm. Shannon Gooden, 38, opened fire on first responders in the suburbs of Brunsville. The Minnesota Department of Public Safety Bureau of Criminal Apprehension said yesterday. Gooden was in continuous dispute with his mother of his 3 oldest children, authorities said, when first responders arrived at the scene. Gooden killed Brunsville officer Paul Elmstrand and Matthew Rogue, both 27, and Adam Fishton, 40, a firefighter and paramedic who was assigned to the city's SWAT team, police said. Another officer, Sergeant Adam Bentkoff, was shot and wounded. Gooden himself was found dead in a room of the home with a gunshot wound to his head and what they're saying is a suicide. While it is unclear who originally called 911, and it doesn't really matter, Gooden had barricaded himself in the home with 7 children aged 2 to 15. Multiple guns were recovered from the scene. Court records show that Gooden had his right to possess guns revoked by Minnesota after pleading guilty in 2008 to second-degree assault with a dangerous weapon. And that is reported by Fox 9, the local channel there. He petitioned a court unsuccessfully in 2020 to have his rights restored. Court records also show his disputes over the custody and financial support of his 3 children had escalated, accusing their mother, Nomini Torres, of neglect, while she called him controlling and accused him of abusing her and the children. The deadly standoff came just 2 days before Gooden and Torres had a scheduled district court hearing on the matter. So here's a man who the Democrat and liberals' laws went into effect and took away his right to have a gun. So then he petitioned it to the courts. And the courts said, nope, sir, you cannot have a gun. You are barred from having a gun. Well, he's a bad guy, aka criminal. And what do criminals not do? They don't follow the laws. Otherwise, he went, oh, I'm barred from having a gun, so I'm going to have to find another way to kill people. No, that's not what he did. He went and got a gun anyhow because he's a bad guy. He's a criminal. He doesn't give a shit about your laws, Democrats. Criminals don't care what laws you pass. That's what makes them a criminal. All your laws do is hurt law-abiding citizens that will then follow the law that you put into place, and the bad guy will not. Do you think that a single mass shooting at a school actually stopped because at the last moment, the person that did it thought, oh, wait a minute, schools are gun-free zones. I got to go put my gun up. I can't do this. Or any gun-free place for that matter. Do you actually think that they have stopped anyone from committing a crime? If you think they have, you are a complete and utter fool. What else have I been saying? I've been saying for the past 4+ years right here on this show that the reason behind the Democrats' party failure to close the border and their resistance against a border wall is because they look at these illegal immigrants as future voters when they become American citizens. They will remember which political party allowed them to storm across our southern border. That would be the Democrats. And it will be the Democrats that they vote for, out of respect for allowing them in. Now, because I keep saying that, I've been told that I don't know what I'm talking about. I've been told that I'm fear-mongering. I've been told that I'm a conspiracy nutcase. Hell, I was even told I'm an outright liar, and I'm lying to turn undecided votes against Democrats and towards Republicans. Well, not only am I 100% correct in my assessment, but I'm shocked at what the Democrats are doing now that back up my claim. Even before the illegal alien even gets to apply for citizenship. And I'm sure you will be as well. The newest member of the San Francisco, California Elections Commission, a 7-member civilian body that oversees and creates policy for the city's Department of Elections, when you go vote, isn't legally allowed to vote. Kelly Wong, an immigrant's right advocate, aka an illegal immigrant, is believed to be the first non-United States citizen to be appointed to any city commission. At a swearing-in ceremony administered by Board of Supervisors, President Aaron Peskin, last Wednesday at San Francisco City Hall, dozens of people gathered to celebrate the occasion. Wong said she hopes her appointment is a beacon of hope for other immigrants living in the city. There are always voices inside my head like, you can't do it. You're not competent. You're an immigrant. This is not your country. That's not true, said Wong, who immigrated to the U.S. in 2019 from Hong Kong to pursue graduate studies, never applied for U.S. citizenship. If I can do it, so can you, she said to all the illegal immigrants that are in support of what she did. Wong's appointment is a result of a 2020 voter-approved measure that removed the citizenship requirement to serve on San Francisco boards, commissions, and advisory bodies. Each of the commission's 7 members is appointed by a different city official, such as the mayor, city attorney, or district attorney. The Board of Supervisors voted unanimously to approve her. You couldn't make this shit up if you tried. And not to be undone, should there possibly be more evidence out there, liberals and Democrats, that I knew what the fuck I was talking about all along? Oh, here you go. Abel, A-B-E-L, an Ethiopian immigrant who prefers people to call him by his first name because of culture naming practices, was sworn in as D.C. Advisory Neighborhood Commissioner last Friday, making him the first non-citizen to hold public office in the nation's capital. That designation, the first non-citizen, means something in a city that has increasingly seen immigrant communities organized to fight for more rights, including the ability to register to vote. Abel was born in Ethiopia and came to the United States as a teenager in 1999. The 38-year-old, whose family was granted asylum only, is a green card holder, which makes him a permanent resident, but not an American citizen. More than 50,000 non-citizens are estimated to live in D.C., And Abel has spent the last several years working with different groups to advance their rights and opportunities as illegal aliens. He served as a key organizer in an effort to get DC lawmakers to pass legislation last year to allow non-citizens, including undocumented immigrants, to vote in local races. For nearly a decade, council members tried to introduce similar legislation, but those efforts did not move forward because of a lack of interest or support. This time around, it felt like there were better organized efforts to help advocate for it. That made the difference, said Sarah Graham, a spokesman for the DC Board of Elections, said that Abel was the first non-citizen to register to vote in the city, and that 3 non-citizens have already registered to vote following him. And now that they're all being told that they can do that, it's going to spread like wildfire all across the United States of America. In cities that are run by Democrats that will allow it to take place. It goes completely opposite of the United States Constitution. What they're doing is not legal, but they're doing it anyhow because they don't give a shit about the United States Constitution. They want these illegal immigrants to continue to pour across our border so that they will vote for Democrats. I've been saying it for 4 years. I'm 100% correct with everything I said about it. And there's your damn proof, liberals and Democrats. There it is. Now it's going to start happening all over America. In every city that's run by Democrats, they're going to allow illegal immigrants that came across that border under this administration to vote for them. And they will, because that's who allowed them free access to America. Because the Democrats can't win any other way. They can only win by cheating. That's the only thing they're good at. They're not good at anything else in this country. Nothing. A new equity plan by President Joe Biden's Department of Veterans Affairs is pursuing for more Black veterans to be labeled mentally disabled. Last Wednesday, the Biden administration released a report titled Equity Assessment and Action Steps for Mental Health Compensation Benefits, which note that the rate of disability payments for mental health conditions for Black veterans is almost double the rate of disability payments for mental health conditions for white veterans. Well, right there, you would think to yourself, well, why the fuck do you need to continue with this? If white veterans that are submitting cases for PTSD are getting turned down, that served in combat and saw horrible shit, but Black veterans are getting approved, why do we need to come up with this equity plan for compensation for more Black people to be labeled as mentally unstable? The Biden administration claimed that the VA needs to take additional steps to increase the number of Black veterans who receive disability payments in the name of equity. A higher percentage of Black veterans currently receive disability compensation benefits, more so than white veterans. 21.7% versus 12.7%. On average, Black veterans also apply for disability compensation at higher rates, yet receive slightly higher disability ratings from VA than white veterans. However, Black veterans have lower grant opportunity rates than white veterans for mental health conditions, 70.3 versus 76.0. The report explained the VA will take immediate and aggressive action to remove the gap between grant rates for Black veterans in order to ensure that Black veterans get the benefits they deserve. Now, so far, everything I just read to you shows that they're getting the benefits they deserve, more so than white veterans. And let me stop for a second. I'm so fucking sick and tired of Democrats throwing the race card out there. Let me explain something to you, you fucking idiots. We're veterans, period. It doesn't matter if you're Black, if you're white, if you're Hispanic. None of it matters. We all served this country. We all took an oath to this country. We are green, if you want to put a color on us, or blue if you're in the Air Force. Stop this shit. A white veteran is no more privileged than a Black veteran, who's no more privileged than a Hispanic veteran, or any other race you want to throw in there. We're veterans. We signed up to serve our country. We all should get the same benefits that each other get, period. But no, this administration wants to do this. You know why they're doing this? I think you probably already figured it out. For votes. To make it look like they're doing something to help Black veterans over white veterans, where they're already getting more benefits than white veterans. I can't wrap my fucking head around how crazy this shit is. It's just another way of pandering and trying to show what great thing you're doing, whether it's for illegal aliens or Black people, or what's to come, cars, which we'll get to here shortly. Continuing on, according to the Daily Wire, the Biden administration's emphasis on increasing the number of Black veterans who are granted mental disability compensation pushes the narrative of Black veterans having a slightly lower grant rate than white veterans, while completely ignoring the fact that a significant higher percentage of Black veterans receive disability compensation benefits for mental health conditions compared to white veterans. To advance the Biden administration equity policies for Black veterans, the VA announced that it would conduct visits at various Defense Department facilities to discuss the report of disparity findings between Black and white veterans, updating its training curriculum to place emphasis on the report's findings. Enhance the VA's Solid Start program, work closely with veteran service organizations to ensure services access for Black veterans, and work directly with Black veteran organizations to encourage more Black veterans to apply for mental disability compensation. The Biden administration's report concluded, moving forward, VA will continue to work aggressively to learn from these findings and use them to eliminate disparities in grant rates for mental health conditions. VA will also continue to study these gaps so we can identify how best to eliminate them. All of that makes no sense. They admit in the report that Black veterans get approved for benefits, whether it's housing, whether it's mental health, whether it's an injury they had serving in combat or jumping out of an airplane at Fort Polk. They already get benefits more so than white veterans. So what in the fuck are they trying to prove here? It's a play of words is what it is, folks. Because here's what they think, okay? They think that black people are too stupid to do their homework and read between the lines, and they think that all they're going to hear is that white people, it's just the opposite, that white people are suppressing black people in the veterans community, and now we got to bring black veterans ahead of white veterans. That's what they believe these vets are going to hear. And their family members. They're not going to read all that I just read to you. They're not going to read the damn report. They're going to just hear that Joe Biden is doing something so that black veterans get treated the same as white veterans. Yet if you read the report, white veterans aren't being treated the same as black veterans. It's right there in the fucking report. Vets are vets. Doesn't matter what color you are. I signed up to die right alongside black, Hispanic, if you're in the military, I got your six, no matter what. But this administration has to throw the fucking race card every chance they get because they're losing it. The election's in November, and there's not a snowball chance in hell this senile son of a bitch, I don't even think he makes it to the election. Either he's going to pull out or the DNC is going to pick somebody else and just go, fuck it, sorry, you're not running. You're completely incompetent. We cannot put you on a stage in front of the world to go up against Donald Trump this time. Just can't do it. You're going to make a fool out of yourself and us. Trust me, it's not going to happen. So, how else can Joe Biden pander to voters? Well, here you go, folks. All you Democrats and liberals out there, you're so global warming cautious and electric vehicles, and we got to get rid of coal and gas and oil and fossil fuels. And old Biden's doing it for us. A little something passed under the radar yesterday and this weekend with President's Day. And not too many people caught this. I did. And now I'm going to share it with you. Surprise! Joe Biden is running away from his push for electric vehicles. Arguable, his most important climate program. As fast as his 81-year-old legs can carry him. Common sense and sinking poll numbers in Michigan have broken through Biden's climate panic, and it's about fucking time. You can also thank China's BYD. They're the leading manufacturer now of electric vehicles. Not Elon Musk, not America, no, China. And that's got Biden now backpedaling. The New York Times, favorite errand boy for the Biden White House, delivered a head-spinning turnaround this past Sunday on a holiday weekend under the radar. In essence, Biden has extended the timetable for lowering tailpipe emissions several years into the future. A backtracking sure to infuriate the climate lobby and especially climate-obsessed young voting liberals. Make sure you let them know what just took place this weekend. The president standing with that later cohort is already shrinking. A recent poll showed Donald Trump running ahead of Biden with registered voters under the age of 35. The Times reported that Biden's plan to relax the EPA proposed emissions limit, which was aimed to eventually eliminating gas-powered cars. White House climate czar Ali Zadali claims the goal of cutting of U.S. emissions in half by 2030 will still be met. Not likely. Proposed last year, the EPA projected its new rules would mean that electric vehicles could account for 67% of new light-duty vehicle sales by mid-year 2032. At the time, the EPA celebrated the tripling of EV sales during Biden's presidency and the building of 130,000 charging stations across America. That sounds impressive, except the electrics represent less than 8% of the new car sales last year, and the U.S. will need an estimated 2 million charging ports by 2030. I'll repeat that. The U.S. will need an estimated 2 million charging station ports by 2030, which is in 6 years. The shortage of charging stations and inconvenience of the whole charging process has slowed the growth of electric vehicles. So has the high price. Last month, according to Cox Automotive, the average price paid for a new electric vehicle is $50,789. Even with the generous tax credits handed out by Biden's Inflation Reduction Act, electrics are still more expensive than old-fashioned gas guzzlers, which on average retail for about $34,000. So let's do the math, liberals. That's $16,789 more you would have to pay for an electric vehicle. Consumers have balked, leaving dealers' lots overflowing with what? Unsold electric vehicles. Reports of cold weather hindering charging operations and battery lives being drained by sub-freezing temperatures, they further squelch enthusiasm. Having spent billions to comply with Biden's decree, Detroit automakers are losing buckets of money on the unpopular EVs. Ford, for instance, lost $36,000 on each electric vehicle it purchased last year. Those issues have not swayed a White House consumed by climate alarmists. What has gotten their attention is the political risk of losing Michigan, a critical swing state, as I'm sure you're aware. Recent polls show that Trump is leading Biden 47 to 45% in the state. The Real Clear Politics average for Michigan polls show Trump ahead by at least 5 points. In 2016, Trump barely squeaked out Hillary Clinton, winning the state with about 10,000 votes. In 2020, Biden won Michigan with a margin of 154,000 votes. It is the ultimate toss-up state, good for 15 electoral college votes and considered critical to both parties. The latest poll shows 6% of 2020 Biden voters have switched their preference to Trump. That's enough to change the outcome of the election in Michigan. Biden faces 2 hurdles in Michigan. The state has a large Arab American population, estimated to be roughly 5% of its voters, which are now angry about Biden's support for Israel and its battle against Hamas terrorists. Arab Americans are threatening to vote uncommitted in the Democrat primary, which will take place in just 7 days, to signal to Biden that he has not earned their support. Biden can thank Democrat terrorist sympathizer Rashida Tlaib for that push. Biden's other problem is wavering backing from automakers in Michigan, who have historically supported Democrats. As many as 1/3 of that group turned out for Trump in 2016, but then defected to Joe Biden 4 years later. Auto workers are concerned that the switch to electric vehicles will cost them jobs. And it will, since it takes 40% less labor to produce them than gas vehicles. Biden's electric vehicle mandate was an underlying cause of the contentious UAW strike that just took place a few months ago. Workers wanted higher pay, but they also wanted guarantees that the push to scuttle gas-powered cars would not put them out of work. That remains a hot topic and explains in part why the White House has rewritten the tailpipe emissions timetable. Not only does assembling an electric vehicle require fewer labor hours, but the high-value batteries and some cars are largely being produced in plants located in right-to-work states. Some Detroit automakers had to guarantee unions of those plants to settle the strike. But our auto workers or markers may soon face a much greater threat, one that President Biden has ignored: BYD, a Chinese company that last year topped Tesla as the global leader in electric vehicles, is reportedly looking to set up shop now in Mexico. Under NAFTA, our trade agreement with Mexico and Canada, the U.S. would be required to allow imports of China electric vehicles free from tariffs. Chinese companies like BYD dominate the global electric vehicle industry with about 60% share of the market. Their cheap but attractive electric vehicles have invaded Europe, taking a large share of the electric market almost overnight and causing alarm amongst rivals like BMW and Mercedes that are trying to compete with electric vehicles. Though Chinese imports would not qualify for tax credits like those available for cars made in the U.S., their significant cost advantage and lower price would make them highly competitive. But essentially, the Chinese makers looking to take over the industry, the EV push is a bust, threatening Detroit automakers and their unions. It is also dangerous for the U.S., Bloomberg, an organization that's fixated on climate change as the White House, recently warned that at least 1 million U.S. households are at risk of electric power surges as our electric grid is struggling to maintain an even flow of electricity. Why? Because our grid is not ready for the surge in EVs. And we see that in the state of California, where this past summer, after they pushed for how many people would, how they were going to get rid of all gas guzzling cars, all diesel trucks, everything's going to be electric by a certain period of time. And then turned around and said, you can't charge your car between this hour and that hour of the day because our electric grid is failing. You couldn't make this up if you tried. These Democrats, a party that I used to belong to, are losers. They're idiots. They have no common sense whatsoever. And they will do anything in their power to stay in power. Whether it's catering to Black veterans, catering to poor people, catering to homeless, catering to automakers. It's sad. They can't run on real policies because they don't have any. Iran's Navy commander, the guy in charge of their Navy, announced on a television broadcast that Iran now owns Antarctica and will build a military operations base on the South Pole. We have property rights in the South Pole, he said. We have planned to raise our flag there and carry out military and scientific work, Iranian Navy Commander Rear Admiral Shireen Arena said in late September, according to a translation by the Washington, D.C. based Middle East Media Research Institute. Iran's naval saber rattling is drawing new attention in response to the Iranian-backed militias that murdered 3 U.S. soldiers in Jordan just last month. Fox News Digital asked a U.S. State Department spokesperson if the recent American unfreezing of $6 billion in Iranian funds held in Qatar would be used by Iran to set up the base in Antarctica. No, Iran funds held in Qatar may not be used for any activities in Antarctica, the spokesman said. Like you got any control over it. Those funds can only be used to purchase humanitarian goods, meaning food, medicine, medical devices, and agricultural products. I'm sorry. The people in charge of this administration despite the regime's glowing bellicracy, what kind of word is that? In the Middle East and across the world, according to veteran Iran observers, the Biden administration released $6 billion in sanction relief to Iran's ruler ahead of the Iran-backed Hamas massacre of 1,200 people on October 7th. That's right. We released $6 billion in frozen assets to the number one sponsor of terrorism on planet Earth. And then we said, you can only use it for humanitarian purposes. And Iran said, oh, thank you so much. That's all we're going to use it for. As they withdraw money that's not being watched or determined by anyone what it's going to. And do you think for one fucking second that it's going to food or humanitarian aid for their people? No, it's going to their military industrial complex. It's going to building nuclear weapons and the delivery of nuclear weapons through the ICBM programs. They're a terrorist organization. We gave terrorists $6 billion fucking dollars. This administration did. It's like I don't even think Hollywood would allow you to make a movie like this because it's so fucking crazy. We surrendered to the people that were against us on 9/11. We surrendered to them in Afghanistan and went, fuck it, and left billions of dollars of our military equipment there. Anyone who doesn't see what this administration is doing, either you're in a fucking coma or you just don't care. Because it's nuts. It's absolutely nuts. It's insane. Anyway, you had many places you could be tonight. Chose to be here with me, and for that I'm forever grateful. Remember, as soon as this show is over with tonight, give me about 10 minutes, 15 max, and I'm going back live again on Rumble only to share with you what every human being on planet Earth needs to know about the jab. Information that I can't share here because YouTube knows better and will label it as misinformation, even though all the mainstream media can carry it. They won't fuck with them. They will only fuck with people like me, the little guy that can't fight it. Even though the CDC supports it. Nope. If I do it on YouTube, it's medical misinformation. So stand by shortly on the Rumble channel, the Douglas Ducote Show, for this very, very important information. If you're even considering, if you already received the jab, this should scare the shit out of you. And if you're thinking about it, you won't be when I'm done reading this to you. Folks, I'll be back here on Thursday at 8 p.m. Central again. Hope you will tune in to the Douglas Ducote Show then. Anything breaks between now and then, I'll do a show about it or a live video about it. I hope that you have a blessed and wonderful evening with whatever you're going to be doing. Please be safe. As always, please say a prayer for our men and women serving the United States military, our veterans, our law enforcement officers, our first responders, and their families. Our angel families, our blue and gold star families, and our country. May God bless the United States of America, and may God bless each and every one of you. Good night, everyone, and I'll see you in about 10 to 15 minutes on the Douglas Ducote Show Rumble channel. Take care.